It's a Mailbag Monday as we answer some of your questions on today's show. Pitching, offense, rookies, it's all on the table on today's episode of Locked on Cardinals.
You are Locked on Cardinals, your daily St. Louis Cardinals podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Cardinals fans. I'm JD Hafford, and I'm a national radio sports anchor, born and raised in the Lou, lifetime Cardinals fan, and I am your host for Locked on Cardinals, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, covering your team every day. You can follow me on Twitter at JD Sports Radio. Follow the podcast at LO_Cardinals. I want to thank those of you who make Locked on Cardinals your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts. You can subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcast, on YouTube. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification button, and comment so you can interact with us. This is a show serving Cardinal Nation and giving the best fans in baseball all of the info about the birds on the bat. So it's another Mailbag Monday on the show, and if you haven't sent in any questions or made any comments on Twitter or on YouTube, what are you waiting for? What are you doing? This is the off season, and obviously we wish we had some actual games to talk about as far as the Cardinals being involved in actually playing a game, but we don't. We don't have that. So I would like to start this off by asking you a question just to kind of get things rolling. Make sure you comment down below on the YouTube channel and let me know what you think here. But do you take any comfort in knowing that the Cardinals weren't the only team that got upset in the playoffs? Does that ease the pain a little bit? Like Philly gets this crazy comeback in game one, shuts the Cardinals out in game two, and move on to face the defending world champion Braves, who a lot of people were picking to repeat and win it all. Most had either them or the Dodgers taking home the trophy this year. Philly takes game one. They were up big in that one before the Braves mounted a comeback and almost tied it in the ninth inning. They get shut out in game two on an outstanding performance by Kyle Wright of the Braves. Pitched great. They head back to Philly for game three. They pummel Spencer Strider, who was coming back from injury, and win big. And then they smack around Charlie Morton in game four. He has to leave with an injury. They win the series 3-1. Just like that, the Braves are done. Does it make you feel a little bit better knowing that the Phillies are kind of catching fire, that they were able to take somebody else out who a lot of people thought were better than the Cardinals? Does it help a little bit? Maybe just a little bit? I'm just trying to look for some positives here because it makes me feel a little bit better knowing that they knocked out the Braves and have moved on. And then you got San Diego. I mean, the playoffs have been nuts so far. Then you got San Diego upsetting the Dodgers in 4 games, 3-1. And the Dodgers actually won game one, so they had to lose 3 in a row to the Padres. I mean, who saw that happening? Over the American League, Houston, they look pretty legit. Mariners had that shot in game one where they beat up on Verlander a little bit, and then they kind of had like a Cardinals meltdown of their own. Lost on the walk-off dinger by Yordan Alvarez, and the Astros cruised after that, sweeping the series. The Guardians are giving the Yankees all they can handle in the other ALDS series. Game 5 is tonight. Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton pulling their best Goldschmidt and Arenado disappearing act in that series. Judge is hitting 125 with 9 strikeouts and 16 at-bats. Stanton is hitting 83. He's 1 for 12 with 5 Ks. Heck, their best offensive guy has been former Cardinal Harrison Bader. He's got 3 long balls for the Bombers so far, which has been kind of cool. I got a buddy who's a big Yankees fan, and so we've been texting back and forth, and he loves him some Darth Bader right now. It makes you wonder what would have happened hadn't the Cardinals blown game one, because they had it in the bag and then it went away. Did anyone think the Birds had a chance against the Braves? Okay. Did you realistically think they could beat Atlanta? And that's why, as lame as it sounds, the goal each year is to win the division and just get in the playoffs, because you never know what's going to happen. And I know people are tired of seeing the Cardinals not go all in, so to speak, and just spend a crap ton of money. But that's not really a guarantee that you will win a title. Your odds certainly increase, but it's not a certain. And let's not kid ourselves. Like, looking at who's left in the National League, the Phillies and the Padres, they spent a lot of money this year to put their teams together. Just because they were underachievers during the regular season and didn't win their division doesn't mean they are surprise teams. A lot of people are talking about, I'm like, I mean, can you believe it? The Padres and the Phillies are there? What do you mean? They're supposed to be there. According to Spot Track, the Mets, who got bounced in round one by the Padres, led the league with a payroll of just under $283 million. The Dodgers were number two. They got bounced in the second round, but their first round of action, just under $276 million. The Yankees are next, could get bounced tonight, just under $265 million. Fourth is the Phillies in payroll at $255 million. Fifth is the Padres at just under $238 million. So it shouldn't be a surprise that these two teams are good and are doing all right in the playoffs. They're supposed to. Look at how much money they spent. I mean, just because they landed in the wild card spot doesn't mean they weren't supposed to win. Next on the payroll list, you got Boston, last in the American League East. The White Sox, second in the AL Central. The Braves got bounced in round two, but their first round of action, $200 million for the Braves. The Astros, who did move on to the ALCS, are at $193 million. Then it's the Angels, who they finished third in the AL West, which doesn't sound so bad, but then you realize there were 16 games under 500 and 33 games back of the Astros in the division. Wow. The Blue Jays, they made the playoffs. They got bounced in round one by the Mariners at $189 million. Then it's the Cardinals at number 12, the 12th highest payroll at $170 million. So the real wild cards who shocked people here are Seattle, who got through the wild card and lost to Houston. Their payroll was $129 million. That's number 21 in baseball. The Tampa Bay Rays lost to the Guardians in the wild card. They were 25th at $104 million. And then the Guardians spend $82 million this year, the 28th lowest payroll ahead of only the Orioles and the A's. And they could bounce the Yankees tonight. So it's not just about spending money. Okay, I guess that's what I'm trying to point out here. It's about spending it on the right players. Like, clearly spending more money works. The top five highest payrolls got into the playoffs this year. But it doesn't guarantee that you're going to win a championship. The Mets and the Dodgers have already learned that, going a combined 2-5 in the playoffs, both getting beat by San Diego. And then you hear San Diego, and of course you're going to get the people who are saying, see, should have got Soto like they did. Well, Juan Soto's a great player, don't get me wrong, but he's hitting .250 with 3 RBIs in the playoffs so far. It's been the role guys, really, for San Diego. Jake Cronenworth, Trent Grisham, Jurickson Profar. Those are the guys that are doing the damage, along with Manny Machado. He's had a good playoff so far. But it's not Soto, Bell, Drury, the main guys they got at the deadline, doing it all with the bats. Josh Hader, by the way, looking good so far in the playoffs, though that's been really nice for them. That worked out. But when you're talking about building this Cardinals team and improving them, it's not necessarily the most expensive guy. They will be the right guy for the team. Just keep that in mind when we start talking about free agent names, because that's what I get a lot of questions about. It's always about, who are they going to sign? Who do you like here? Who do you think they're going to get here? People want to sign like 7 different dudes like all at once and just bring them on the roster, and that's not going to happen. So a lot of teams are going to just throw money around. They're going to do it freely, and usually they overpay for people. And it always kind of puts the Cardinals in a tough position because they don't mind spending money. I mean, Arenado's, a top 10 contract. Goldschmidt's right up there too. But they will never spend what those top 5 teams are spending. I mean, the Mets and the Dodgers spent $100 million more than the Cardinals this year. And they won just as many playoff series. I mean, can you imagine the reaction by the Cardinals fans if they had the payroll of like the Mets and the Dodgers and they got bounced in the first round that they played in? Can you imagine what that would be like on Twitter, on social media? Holy crap. The Cardinals will never tank. I can say that with 100% certainty. They will never be that team that tanks. They're never going to be bottom half spenders either. Like, that's just not something that's going to happen. Like, they're going to remain in the top 15 all the time. But they got a budget. And for the most part, they do a pretty good job of staying within their means and getting the most value possible. That's how they've been able to stay as relevant, stay as consistent as far as winning goes over the years. Has it always won world championships? It's been a while now. It's been a while since they've won one. But I don't know. I feel like them losing in their wild card round compared to teams like the Mets and Dodgers losing with their payrolls, I feel like their losses are way bigger than what the Cardinals was. They like to play things a little safer, if you will. And the numbers don't lie. In the last decade, over 4 million people have chosen SimpliSafe home security to protect their home. You don't earn the trust of that many people without doing something right. At SimpliSafe, your safety is the only thing that matters. They protect you with cutting-edge security technology, powered by 24/7 professional monitoring agents who always have your back. Being able to control your system from your phone with the app, that is something I think is really, really cool. Watching the crystal clear HD live stream of your security cameras or the wide variety of high-tech sensors. I've got friends who have it on their phone and they're like, look, you can see my dog or whoever is walking around, like people delivering packages and stuff like that. I think that's cool. With 24/7 professional monitoring, SimpliSafe's agents call you the moment a threat is detected and dispatch police or first responders in an emergency, even if you're not home or can't be reached. SimpliSafe blankets your home in protection with advanced sensors for every room, window, and door. HD security cameras for inside and outside your home. Smarter ways to detect motion that only alert you when a threat is real. And even hazard sensors that instantly detect things like fires, floods, and other threats to your home. It's not just burglars and people trying to break in, man. A lot of things that happen to the household. Their monitoring experts use proprietary advanced response technology to visually confirm when a break-in is real so you can get the highest priority police dispatch. Customize the perfect system for your home in just a few minutes at simplisafe.com/LockedOnMLB, and you can save 20% on your SimpliSafe security system when you sign up for an interactive monitoring plan and get your first month free. Visit simplisafe.com/LockedOn MLB to learn more. There's no safe like SimpliSafe. Let's jump into the mailbag. First question is one I've been getting a lot of recently since the Cardinals got ousted in the wild card round. Jose Quintana, should they keep him or do they go elsewhere? What do you think they should do? In my opinion, this really kind of depends on what happens with Adam Wainwright. We're waiting on Waino, in my eyes. If Adam doesn't come back, here's what you got. You got Jack Flaherty, Miles Michaelis, Jordan Montgomery, Steven Matz. That's your top four. Quintana would be wonderful, considering how he threw for the team after they got him at the trade deadline. And I've said it before, he clearly enjoyed his time in St. Louis. And I don't think anyone is going to throw some like huge monster contract at him that the Cardinals couldn't afford. But if Wainwright does return and he decides, yeah, I want to give it one more year, does that create somewhat of a logjam in the starting rotation? And then you'd be forced to kick someone to the bullpen. Now, Matz was that guy this year. After he hurt his knee, he rehabbed, came back, and they put him in the bullpen. And I don't mind sitting him back there again if that has to happen. Quintana is more of a 5-6 inning kind of guy, usually. Sometimes he goes longer, but for the most part, it's usually 5 or 6 innings. So having a couple guys like Matz, Woodford, Hudson, guys who are capable of throwing 2 or 3 innings, it's a nice problem to have. And you can never have too much pitching, right? Like, that's never going to be like, oh, gosh, we have too much. I mean, we've seen the injury bug hit guys like Flaherty and Matz this year. Michaelis was out for almost 2 years. Waino not getting any younger if he does come back, and dealt with what we thought was dead arm. And then he said, no, actually it was his stride, but still if something happens, sprains an ankle, whatever, anything can happen, you know? So I genuinely hope they can work something out to keep him. And here's the other thing that I've been thinking about too, since the, whole article came out about Contreras talking to Quintana about what it's like in St. Louis. I mean, if Quintana can be like a recruiting person and get Contreras to come to St. Louis and be the new catcher, even better. Even better. I'd decide to get both of them. That'd be outstanding, right? Which rookie from this year will have the biggest role moving forward next year? That one coming from Dallas Klusner. Rookies were huge this year, like surprisingly huge. Major part of this team. Brendan Donovan playing everywhere and being that on-base machine. Juan Yepez was the right-handed power bat who could DH, play the corner outfield spots, and was doing pretty well before he injured his forearm. Andre Palante, whether he was starting or you brought him out of the bullpen, excellent pretty much no matter where you threw him. And then you had like Nolan Gorman. And Nolan Gorman's the guy that I'm always going to kind of turn to that I'm like, he could be huge. Top prospect, tons of power. Had trouble at the end, obviously. We knew he was going to strike out a lot, but we didn't know it was going to get that bad where he couldn't even put the ball in play anymore. Got sent back down to Memphis. And he's the guy that I think is a big deal. But biggest role moving forward for next year, I got to say Brendan Donovan. That's the smart money, right? Brendan Donovan. I mean, he could essentially be your starting second baseman. I mean, that's a pretty big deal. So if they don't do anything at shortstop and they keep Tommy Edman over there, Donovan at second base makes a lot of sense. And as much as I want to say Gorman, I just don't know what his role will be yet. Will they have the courage? Because you're not going to bring him up and then make him like a platoon guy, right? Like, what's the point in that? Then let him get all the at-bats in Memphis until you need him. But will they have the courage to start him at second base or DH and let Donovan be the utility guy that kind of bounces around everywhere? Or did they see enough from Brendan Donovan that they're like, you're a starting second baseman unless Gorman beats you out in spring training? We'll have to wait and see. But I'll say Donovan, who, by the way, I just saw this yesterday, made the MLB Pipeline All-Rookie team as the second baseman. First team All-Rookie team. So he's up there with all the big rookies, starting second baseman, according to MLB.com. So if he's good enough for them, should be good enough for the Cardinals, right? Played good defense, got on base a lot. There was a lot to like about Brendan Donovan this year, and probably next year too. I mean, if you had to make a decision right now, who's your starting second baseman, Donovan or Gorman? I think we're all going to say Brendan Donovan. I think he earned it, right? Do the Cardinals have anyone in the Arizona Fall League playing? I think that's what they're asking. Chai Lu with the question there. Yes, they do. They have a few guys. Top prospect Jordan Walker, top shortstop prospect Mason Wynn, and one of their top pitching prospects, Tink Hentz, who's number 6 in the organization, by the way. Those are the big names on the Salt River Rafters, by the way, is the team that they're playing for. Stats-wise so far through 8 games, Jordan Walker hitting .259, 2 home runs, 6 RBIs, 8 runs scored. Mason Wynn is hitting .278, no home runs yet, 1 RBI, 5 runs scored, but he does have 3 stolen bases. You got to like that speed aspect out of Mason Wynn. Hentz has thrown 3 innings, gave up a solo home run, but that's the only hit he's given up so far. He's walked 1 and struck out 2. They do have a couple of other guys who are also playing, but not like, top 10 prospect guys in the system. Connor Thomas, 24-year-old left-hander, number 24 prospect in their organization. Been pretty good. 8 2/3 in 2 games. He's allowed 10 hits, but 3 runs, only one of those, or one of them earned, yeah. Whiffed 7, ERA at 1.04 so far. Ryan Lautos, I think it's either Lutos or Lautos. Could be Lutos. Anyway, he's number 26 prospect. I'll have to ask Lindsey Crosby about this one. Number 26 prospect, 6'5" right-hander, has appeared in 4 games, ERA of 4.50 over 8 innings. He's allowed 4 runs, 7 hits, has 7 punchies. Those are kind of the big ones. So, yeah. I mean, they're well represented in the Arizona Fall League this year. So that's kind of nice, keeping up to date and seeing those guys play still. That way we can kind of see their progress in this off-season time that we have right now. The Cardinals did do some signing today with the front office. Plus, they got another awesome On This Date in Cardinal playoff history moment for you, featuring Mr. 700, Albert Pujols, next on Locked on Cardinals. All right. Got some business that the Cardinals took care of. General Manager Michael Gersh and Randy Flores, the team's assistant GM and director of scouting, have agreed to contract extensions this past week. Each contract extended for multiple years. Gersh has been the team's GM since 2017, and Flores has overseen some of the team's most successful drafts since taking over with the June 2016 first-year player draft. Their contracts were set to expire in the coming weeks as the postseason came to an end. Cardinals president of baseball operations, John Mozeliak, said that Chairman Bill DeWitt Jr. and he are excited to know the future of the organization is in strong hands, and they're glad that the leadership group is intact. Current front office has directed 15 consecutive winning seasons, and this past year's NL Central title was the team's 6th in that span. It's pretty good. And it's one of the reasons why the Cardinals get a lot of hate around the country, because people are sick of the Cardinals. Absolutely sick of the Cardinals, because they're always there. They're always winning. They're always just around, and it drives people nuts. Now we just need to take that next step, right? That's the next thing, okay? We've done this playoff thing. We've made it a bunch of times, 4 years in a row now, and we haven't gotten very far. So how do they make that next step? That's something they're going to have to figure out. So I want to take you back to 2005 for this next on this date in Cardinals playoff history. This was a big one. I like to call it Houston, you have a problem. And his name is Albert Pujols. The Minute Maid Park crowd. Let me paint the picture for you real quick. The Minute Maid Park crowd. We're in Houston. Put yourself there. Going bonkers. Anticipating the Astros' first National League crown. A dominant closer, Brad Lidge, on the mound. Lights out kind of guy. Closing out the 9th inning. Gets the first 2 guys. And then with 2 outs in the inning, little David Eckstein, our little guy at shortstop, hits a ground ball single between short and third. Then Jimmy Ballgame comes up. Jimmy Edmonds. He ends up taking a walk on 5 pitches, which brings in Albert Pujols. First pitch, Albert's a little excited, swings and misses at a ball kind of in the dirt. Second pitch, Pujols hits it to the moon. A missile to left center over the dorky train tracks that went an estimated 455 feet, but I'm convinced that sucker would have gone like 600 feet if it hadn't hit the wall of the stadium. That's what stopped it. It wasn't coming down. It was still going up. And it just went boom and came down. A freaking missile. And I remember I was actually on the air. I was doing a night show at the time it happened. And I'm like trying to pay attention to what I'm doing on the air. And I got the game over here on this little side TV, and he hit it. And I was like, ah! It took every bit of me to not curse in excitement when Pujols hit that home run. Gave the Birds a 5-4 lead. They go on to win that game, force a game 6, which they ultimately lost 5-1. Astros go on to the World Series, where they were swept by the Chicago White Sox. But what a memorable moment from the machine. So what I'll do here, so you can relive it for yourself, I'll link the clip in the description below on YouTube. I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen today. Now make your second listen to the Locked On MLB podcast. MLB expert Paul Francis Sullivan brings humor, passion, and unique perspective on every team and the biggest stories around the league. What's going on with the Guardians and the Yankees tonight? What are his thoughts now on the playoffs with the remaining teams? Follow the #1 daily league-wide podcast, Locked On MLB, on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get podcasts. As always, be sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification button on YouTube. Appreciate it. Helps get the channel some more exposure when you hit those likes and everything. Follow on Twitter at @LO_Cardinals and at JD Sports Radio. You're the best fans in baseball for a reason, and I'll see you next time right here on Locked On Cardinals.